My next guest is a rising star in musical theatre, graduating from the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts in 2021. She's already earning a reputation for her hard work, charisma and versatility on stage and screen. About to star as Kate Monster in Avenue Q, welcome to Showtime, Zoe Crisp.
Thanks so much for having me.
Zoe, you grew up in Perth and then went to drama school in Perth. What was it like growing up in Perth, and what sparked your interest in music theatre?
Yeah, so growing up in Perth, it was great. It doesn't have much theatre there, especially when I was growing up. There wasn't much, and my parents are not involved in the theatre scene there at all. So I wasn't really exposed to musical theatre until a later age. But then what started my journey, my mum put me into this theatre school program when I was 9 years old, and I remember the first day we had to audition for a soloist part, and I auditioned. I'd never sung before, never acted before, and I auditioned and ended up getting a soloist role. So my first experience performing on stage, I was singing and acting and dancing to probably a crowd of like 200 people at the age of 9.
How old were you at the time?
I was 9.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I knew from that moment that that's what I wanted to do. And so I definitely had to, it was very self-driven. I had to pursue musical theatre because there wasn't programs in place when I was growing up. So I got singing lessons and dance lessons and acting lessons. And then I heard of this high school in Perth that's a performing arts high school, and I was just set that I was going to go there for musical theatre, and I haven't really stopped since.
So 9-year-old Zoe auditioning for that solo part that you mentioned, is that, thinking back on it now, is that the scariest thing you've ever done?
You know, I wasn't scared at the time at all. I guess 9-year-olds don't really get as scared as we do now. I don't think it's something that I could do now, but I didn't think about it. And then suddenly the crowd was applauding, and I was like, oh, this is something that I'm potentially good at. Yeah. So I just continued down that path.
And then you went to WAAPA and studied music theatre there. How much do you find yourself sort of leaning back into that training?
Oh, I think the training was really important for me. In musical theatre you have so many elements. There's the singing and the dancing and the acting. And I think especially for dancing, for me, that training was really important because you need that like technique base to survive in this industry. So I go back to the technique all the time. And WAAPA, we had a very unique course in that way that we got to do so many shows. We did about, I think, 8 shows in my time at WAAPA. So it really was simulating the industry, but in a like safe environment. And I go back to the teaching, but also we got taught how to put on shows and how to exist in the industry. So I returned back to the training a lot.
So are you saying in the WAAPA music theatre course there's no specialty in puppetry?
Oh, no.
Is that not aren't there puppets in every musical?
No, you'd be surprised. There's very few.
Yeah, there aren't that many at all. Apart from Avenue Q, which we'll talk about in a sec, there's the Little Shop of Horrors. As you know, I produced The Three Little Pigs last year, a kids musical, and we managed to squeeze a couple of our puppets into that. Yeah, there aren't many.
No, I actually did a high school production of Little Shop of Horrors. That was my first experience with puppets.
How was that?
I love Little Shop of Horrors. What a great show. We had a great time. And I remember looking at the puppets and thinking, wow, that's amazing. But I never had the desire to puppet, but it's suddenly sort of come into my life, and it's so much fun. I'm having the best time in Avenue Q.
And of course, you're about to play Kate Monster in Avenue Q that's opening on the 22nd of February at the National Theatre. Is this your first time performing with a puppet?
Yes. Well, I currently work at Jurassic World and we do puppet work there, but it's a very different kind of puppeting. It's very much it's a meet and greet with children and parents, and you get to have a baby dinosaur in your arms and they come up and you sort of talk to the dinosaur and the dinosaur looks around and talks to the kids. Whereas Avenue Q is I think a very unique style of puppeting in that we are the puppet and the puppet is us. And I've never sang and like lip synced with a puppet, and yeah, it's a new skill and it's quite tough, but I think we're giving it a good go. We're having the best time.
For those that aren't familiar with the show, it's not that you're performing as a puppeteer or that you're performing even with a puppet. You're sort of performing through a puppet, aren't you?
Yeah, it's sort of hard to explain unless you see the show. You should buy
tickets and come see the show. Is that what you said?
Yeah, come and see the show.
Nice.
Yeah, no, we're performing through the puppet. So I am Kate. We can't look at Kate. Kate's not a separate body. She is me. And so I sing as her, I act as her, I dance as her. Yeah, it's a very unique style of puppeting.
And how's it been, that process of learning how to perform with and through a puppet? As sort of an extension of you and the character that you're creating?
Yeah, it's been tricky, but in a very rewarding way. It's really strange because as a performer, you are taught how your body moves, how your body looks, how to express through what your body. And now suddenly you have this other body on your arm, and you have to learn how to express emotions through this other being. So it's a lot of time in front of the mirror, how do I make her look happy? How do I make her look sad? It's sort of, while I'm trying to learn how to act Kate Monster, I'm also teaching Kate Monster how to act Kate Monster. So it's a bit of a mind game, but it's so much fun.
And then because there are human characters and puppet characters in the show, when you and Kate Monster are communicating with other puppet characters, you're actually making eye contact with the puppets, not with the performers. So that's something quite different too, I imagine.
Yes, that one it's strange. I think it's probably harder for the human characters because I'm not thinking about it. I'm looking at the humans and looking at the other puppets. But the human characters, they're not allowed to look at us, and we're the ones who are speaking. So it's funny. We're in rehearsals and we'll be doing a scene, and then suddenly one of the humans will accidentally look at me, and you feel like you've just been caught like a deer in the headlights. It's like, you can't look at me. I'm not the one talking. It's Kate. It's like rewiring your brain in that way. And you get to the end of a run, and I've realized I haven't looked at Harley, who I do all my scenes with. I haven't made eye contact with him for the last hour or so. We've just been staring at each other's puppets.
Harley Day, who of course is playing Princeton in Avenue Q. And you, the show, a lot of people have heard of the show. Some people have seen the show. The show's got a reputation of being, a little bit risque, a little bit raunchy, a little bit edgy. But what do you think are the important themes of Avenue Q?
Yeah, I think, like you said, even though the humour is kind of crude and nihilistic and outrageous, I think the message, it's just about how we all have to navigate these tough situations in life, and it's the harsh realities of being an adult, and we all have to go through them, but we can do it together. And it's quite uplifting in that sense. It's like life will throw some things at you, and it talks about the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis. It talks about navigating adult friendships and adult relationships and all of the harsh, the things that adults have to deal with on a daily basis. But its main message, I think, is that even though we're all going through this, we're going through it together, and we have to embrace everyone who's around us right now, because we're on this lovely crazy journey together. So it's sort of a nihilistic but optimistic, uplifting message that the show has.
And the show's now over 20 years old, but these themes that you mentioned, they're pretty current, aren't they?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think even 20 years later, all the themes are really relevant to today. It's if you haven't seen Avenue Q, I guess Princeton is arriving onto the scene. He's fresh out of college, and the show discusses that liminal space between like college and being a fully fledged adult, whatever that means. And I think that it remains just as relevant for young people. It's the cost of living crisis. I mean, that's still going on. We've got the housing crisis. It's about not having the tools from school that you need to become an adult in this modern world. And honestly, the themes I don't think have changed since 2002. They're just as relevant and everyone still feels them.
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it?
No, it's not. I think the show does such a beautiful job of reminding us that we're really lucky to be here and that we're all in this together, and you get to meet such beautiful people along the way and have the best times and the worst times, and it's really uplifting.
So what about Kate, who you're playing in the show? What about Kate's character and personality do you really relate to?
I think Kate is written to be she's the relatable character, I think. I relate pretty much to every aspect of Kate's life. She's just, I think, the definition of a modern day woman. She's independent, she's career driven, she's got political aspirations, but she's also funny and fiery and wants love and happiness. And I think we all relate to Kate.
And what do you think it is? I mean, we touched on it before. You were talking about, the themes of cost of living and finding your way and sort of even discovering yourself. But what do you think that makes Avenue Q as relatable today as it was 20-something years ago when it first debuted on Broadway?
I think as relatable today, I think the through line, like we said before, the through line of we're all in this together and we're all in this community, and we've got to be kind and make it work together. I think that hasn't lost any relevance. And yeah, I think the themes have stayed exactly the same. And I also think that everyone right now in 2025 needs a little bit of a laugh, I'd say. Some of the political stuff's pretty heavy right now, and Avenue Q it's hilarious, first and foremost. So I think, the audiences, I think, will just love it because it's hilarious and everyone needs a bit of a laugh altogether at the moment.
I'm chatting with Zoe Crisp about Avenue Q opening on the 22nd of February at the National Theatre in St Kilda. Zoe, thank you so much for the chat and all the very best for the season.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.